Good morning and welcome to another edition of Badass Marketing. I am joined by the ever so lovely Angela Dunz. Angela, how are you this morning?
Oh, I've had better days. But thanks for asking.
I heard. So, is your
Yes.
car back?
Yeah, $500 later.
Did you just park in a bad place or?
Well, actually, it's an illegal tow, so I'm going to have to fight it. And I think, you know, yes, it's interesting. The construction here is causing problems, and they're getting really happy about towing cars. So
There you go.
I just walked 6 blocks with my groceries.
Nice, nice. So we will move on from the car drama to a topic that is near and dear to my heart is all those lovely promises that marketers make to you to get you to sign up for their services.
Yes. And it's not just marketers that are saying things that are unrealistic and exaggerated. So it would be interesting yeah, we should address all of it, Mike.
Yeah, where would you like to start?
Well, I really want to start specifically with marketers. So, be thinking in your own mind while we're discussing this. When marketers say this, what is it that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and tells you, probably not?
I think that, excuse me, the number one thing that is a red flag to me is when the SEO folks promise to have, give me a number one ranking on Google.
For how long?
It never says, and it also never it also never says number what ranking on what keyword, right? Because I can rank a really obscure keyword at number one immediately because it's just an obscure keyword. It's a long tail obscure keyword that clearly I can get you the number one spot. But if it's a keyword that no one ever uses, what's the point? Like, so, will that drive traffic to you? And unfortunately, I don't think that the average person who receives these types of solicitations, is thinking that in depth. So they're like, all right, I sell bookkeeping, so I would love to, rank number one in bookkeeping, right? And that's not going to happen, right? That's not what they're promising you. If they are promising you that, I can assure you that, they're lying. What they're promising you is some obscure word, and depending on, where you are and what the competition is with what you're trying to rank for will determine how fast you climb up the Google app, search rankings. So if you are trying to rank for, bookkeeping Larkspur, which is a city here in Northern California, and there's not a lot of other people who have that, then yeah, you have a good likelihood of maybe, ranking towards the top or even number one, assuming that you don't have other competitors. But, if you're trying to rank for bookkeeping San Francisco, I can assure you, you're not getting the number one slot overnight.
Yes.
Um,
And you
so
certainly are not going to stay there for any length of time without an unlimited budget.
right. Yeah, I mean, this is SEO. So we're not even talking about paid search. We're talking about organically, where they're promising to organically get you that spot, right? Because paid is different. If I, with paid, depending on my audience and depending on where they are, I can get to the top because I'm paying for it. If I'm willing to spend, more per, ad word than somebody else, then I can rank at the top. But that's a pay to play. What I'm referring to is the promises that, the SEO, the, non-pay to play, we will rank you to the top. So for me, that's always a red flag. Like, yeah, clearly, they're preying on people who don't really understand how SEO works.
And so there are a couple things that come up in just this first scenario that we're talking about. Let the buyer beware. It's good to do a little bit of research. And really, the problem is exaggeration. It's promising something that you may not be able to hope to ever have.
Yeah, I mean, it's this simple. SEO is a long-term play. If you can't wait for SEO to kick in, then you do ads, right? So, if you want to rank towards the top, you pay for it. You do it through ads. If you want to rank organically and rank consistently, because we know that something like 85% of the people ignore ads because they know they're paid placements, and you want to rank organically, you do it through SEO. But SEO is a 6 month to 12-month endeavor. If you're consistently working it, consistently making sure that the keywords that your audience is looking for are, words that you're targeting, those types of things. So, it's really about, not like you said, buyer beware, but it's because most people don't understand the difference between an organic ranking and a paid search and all those types of things, and they take advantage of that. We'll rank you number one. Well, not organically and not overnight.
Exactly. So any other pet peeves on the top of your list, Mike Doherty?
My next one is just sort of the general get rich quick. We're going to solve all your problems overnight. Whether it be SEO, whether it be paid advertising, whatever, whether it's a shiny new platform, anything where you can get instant traction, suggests that, it's not a long-term play. So, if they get you that instant traction, it's probably, like you said, whether or not there's any staying power to it. So, to grow your business, that's a long-term play. You have to consistently work it. You have to provide relevant content. You have to understand your audience. All those types of things just do not happen overnight. So anybody who's promising you sort of the get rich quick, we will fix it, and you'll be rolling in cash, buyer beware, or just don't do it. Just don't go
Right.
there.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And there are a lot of small business owners that get to a point where they're a little bit in a little bit of trouble for cash flow, and they want to believe these things. Myself, I would rather do something that was a gradual build or a slow burn, but was consistent for building business. And it's really hard to get people into that mindset.
I mean, I would love the, get rich quick, do it fast kind of approach, except that just, we know it doesn't work.
Unsustainable.
Right. So, I'm not opposed to the concept. It's not a real concept. It's not something that works. Marketing and brand awareness is about constantly being in front of your target audience, not once, not twice, but consistently. So, you can get that big bump maybe once or twice, but that's not about developing brand awareness. Just because somebody's seen your ad once or seen you once, that doesn't mean that they're going to, remember your brand. So, we always
Our
talk about
memories are short.
brand awareness just being about, creating multiple touch points to stay in front of people so that you're top of mind.
Yes. Yes. And it really takes about 12 to 27 touch points before people even know who you are.
Right.
So staying top of mind is definitely the long game.
Yeah, I mean, because you think about the funnel, right? The first is just developing awareness that you exist, right? And then as you begin to move through the funnel, whether it's through repeated exposure on social media, those types of things, you go from awareness to understanding. They know what you provide, they're interested in your services, and then you work them through the funnel. But the initial stage is always awareness. Like, I didn't know you even existed, or I didn't even know. And we have a client that is, a retailer on a prominent sort of merchant corridor here in San Francisco. And the thing that we always are sort of surprised at, because we've been there a year, we're always surprised that people are like, oh, is this a new store? I didn't know you were here. And it's like, no, we've been here for a year, but they've walked past us and they didn't have an immediate need or what have you. Or for whatever reason, they walk past without looking at the sign, So no, we've been here a year, but obviously we have to work harder at creating brand awareness so that, people are aware, like, yeah, no, we are here. We've been here. So,
Yes. So do you think there's any key words, or, what are some of the more subtle cues that really tip you off when somebody is telling you something that might not be true?
guarantee. And if somebody, I guarantee you'll have the number one spot. You can't guarantee that. There's so many factors that, especially if we're talking organically, right? There are so many factors that go into, how, websites are ranked. And we know that the Google algorithms, and, we're primarily focused on Google at this point, but we know that the algorithms, whether it be on Google or LinkedIn or, Facebook or Instagram, whatever it may be, there's algorithms that, measure all kinds of crazy things, half of which we understand, half of which I think are just magic. Just like, however somebody's feeling that day. But the reality is, if you guarantee me a spot, yeah, that's a red flag. That right there, and then, the time frame, like we'll rank immediately, like, those kind of promises. You said earlier, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. And that pretty much will hold true in these types of offers.
Yes. So are there other words that sort of like make you go, ooh?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another example. That one seems to be very top of mind, where, it's just what they're promising and what they're able to deliver, what they're realistically able to deliver, is the key point. I mean, I think any one of the platforms, is, they're all going to tout that they're the magical solution, right? We're big fans and advocates for LinkedIn, and so we will tout LinkedIn as, this is what you should use. But that's today based on certain factors that could change tomorrow. We love to trash pour Clubhouse here, which we seem to do on a regular basis, but you're on a really hot platform and it's hot for a while, and then tomorrow it's not hot. And we have a long laundry list of brands that have come and gone, right? I mean, most of us started our early web career on AOL and AIM, right? And that was a big communication. I remember for the longest time, we did a lot of marketing through Yahoo groups, and Yahoo was a big platform.
It was for
Right?
quite some, they had a fairly
Yeah.
good run.
They were our primary platform till they weren't, right? So the reality is these platforms will come and go.
Yes.
So anybody who promises, instant success on one platform, and without belaboring the point, in our mind, building on social media is building on rented land. You just, you can't control things. So we're like, if you're in this for the long haul, build an email list.
Yes. Yes. Well, and the other thing is somebody can make you promises about doing really well on a certain platform. Is that where your people are?
Right. And I mean, the other thing is, I think that sort of the idea of like, we will take care of everything for you, right? We have clients that would love us to do that, and we would love to do it on their behalf. But the reality is, we don't know their businesses the way they know their business, right? We may think we know what their target audience is, and then when we talk to the client, they're like, "Oh no, our target audience is over here." You can't set it and forget it when it comes to marketing. If you're going to pay money to anybody, right, you need to stay engaged. This is still your money going out the door. You need to stay engaged. You need to understand what the messaging is. They can help you with all that, and that's money well spent, and we support that. But do not think that you can hire a marketing person and then like just close your eyes and hope for the best, because they don't know your business the way that you know your business. So if you're going to spend the money, make sure that you also are prepared to commit to the time, because they need your input. They need to know, what are your customers talking about today? What are your customers concerned about? We can help you with getting those sentiments and collecting that information. But we're going to go back to you, Mr. Business Owner, or Mr. Business Owner, and say, look, here's what we're seeing sentiment wise. Does that align with what you're seeing? Is that consistent with the target audience that you're going after? So this idea of that, like, oh, you don't have to do anything. And then I guess the last thing that I think drives me crazy, again, and this really just comes from, not knowing people's businesses, but the people that are out there like, I'll get you 10 to 20 leads a day,
Oh my God.
right? These are people who are on the phone, like I get those phone calls all day long. And most of the time, if I'm lucky, my phone screens them and because it's an unrecognized number. But if indeed I am silly enough to pick up the phone, then I either hang up or I share a few quality explicatives and then hang up. So this is not how you market your business, by outsourcing, your first point of contact to a third party, right? That just generally doesn't know your business. So this idea of like, somebody is going to get you 10 to 20 leads a day.
And do you need 10 to 20 leads per day?
I mean, I don't know that that's a bad thing. I wouldn't mind having 10 to 20 leads a day, but the reality is, unless you're one of my networking partners that understands my business, understands my target audience, understands what I like to do and what I don't like to do, right? Because you and I are big networkers and referrers, and we spend a considerable amount of time with our networking partners, understanding their businesses, understanding what an ideal referral is. And we send them along referrals, then they're like, yeah, that wasn't it. So, we need that feedback to make sure that we understand, well, yeah, that was a potential client, but it's not a potential client they want, right? So you really, if you're going to do that, you really need to be engaged. I mean, I guess the biggest thing is, the idea that you can sort of outsource your marketing and just be oblivious to it. You have to remain involved.
Right.
We're big on measuring things. What are the KPIs? What are those kinds of things? So, and if you're spending money, there needs to be an ROI. So if you're spending money with a marketing team, you have an expectation of an ROI. But if you're not helping them craft your message and understand your business, they're never going to get there. Right. And that is not the marketing company's fault. It is if they're, not pushing back on you and requesting this information. But if they're requesting this information and you're ignoring it and you're still paying them and then you're wondering why it's not working.
I was in a coaches and consultants meeting one time, and one of the discussion points was the whole idea is our job is not to tell the client what they want to hear. Our job is to tell them what's realistic and to educate them a little bit on some of those things. And we may not be who they choose, but we should at least tell them the truth.
Yeah, I mean, and having been in a lot of those sessions as well, a lot of people will take that to the next level. Was I won't even tell you what to do, right? I'm going to help you work through the process for you to figure out. If as a coach, there's a coach and a consultant. The consultant tells you what to do. Right? The consultant, you hired me, I have the expertise, you should do this. And you're paying me for that advice. So if you're hiring a consultant, they will tell you what to do. If you hire a consultant and they tell you what to do and you don't do it, why are you spending the money?
Yes.
Right? A coach, on the other hand, is supposed to help you through the process so that you understand what you should be doing and you determine what is the best course of action for you. They're going to offer input, they're going to offer advice, of course they are. But the reality is the difference between consulting and coaching is helping you develop the skill sets so that you can figure out what is the best course of action.
Informed choices.
Right.
And that is a great place to be.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's like walking them through the process. What is your value statement? And then we'll break that down. And, okay, so how do you differentiate? What is the customer willing to pay for? What is, the outcome that they're hoping for? What are the emotional elements to what you're promising and what you're promising to fulfill? People don't buy products, they buy emotions, right?
Yes.
So I want to feel happier, I want to feel more successful, and that's
More
how we sell your
confident
product.
about my
Do you want to be
business.
successful? Right? What does that even mean? Right? That's just not even tangible. But how many people buy into that marketing line? Do you want to be
Yes.
successful? I want to be successful, right? But
It
it
means
doesn't
something
necessarily mean that
completely
every product that
different.
comes along is going to get me there.
Right. Right. Well, I do have a really big pet peeve when it comes to marketing.
Okay. Let's see what you
Um, the
do.
whole word lead generation or the phrase lead generation makes me insane. Every time I hear it, I just go, because there are so many times that people expect something to be a direct conversion. And there's no definition. What does lead generation really mean? Does that mean that you have a prospect? Does that mean that you have a relationship? Does that mean that you have an Insta client? You know, and
And the
that
answer is
is
yes, it
really,
does, but it's where you set the expectations,
yes,
right?
yes.
It's like, so I have this potential for you, but and a lot of times what we'll do is like, this is a hot lead, this is a warm lead, this is a cold lead, so we'll try to quantify it or qualify it for you, saying, here's what we're handing you. We're not handing you they're gonna like sign on the dotted line tomorrow, but they're interested in a service like yours. You need to do more work. So, I do think all of that is encompassed in lead generation, but it's really about what is your expectation when it comes to lead generation. So if your expectation is that I'm sending you clients that close tomorrow, that's a set of expectations. And if that's all you're interested in, what's important for me as your networking partner is to understand that's all you're interested in, is the types of clients that can close tomorrow. Because I will have other prospects that I know either are in a longer sales cycle, or I know they aren't that far in their selection process, that they're not ready to make a decision, right? Or since they don't even know you, they're not going to go down that path tomorrow. So from a networking perspective, I need to understand what your expectations are around lead generation.
right, right. And so one of my pet peeves is when you link the word lead generation to LinkedIn. That is something that I try to stay away from because I think it sets up the wrong expectations. LinkedIn is much better used as a relationship building tool, as a relationship nurturing tool for driving traffic to someplace that someone is much more likely to make a purchase like decision. We don't want to be sold on LinkedIn. So it's really hard to call what we do on LinkedIn lead generation. Of course it is. But in many people's minds, I think it sets up the wrong expectation. They are thinking Insta client.
Yeah, I mean, we're using LinkedIn as a network building tool, that may or may not lead to prospecting, but I am constantly bombarded with messages from people that look to connect. I connect, and then the first immediate message after connecting is they're trying to sell me something. Right? I mean, I don't know them. I'm pretty liberal with accepting. I've actually been less liberal lately, but I've been pretty liberal with accepting these types of invitations. And but the reality is, as soon as you hit me up with a sale without any other.
Michael? Oh no.
Come back. You came back from the light.
You're back.
Back.
That was, I don't know if that was my end or your end, but everybody, I'm so sorry.
Step back from the light. Don't go into the light. It's not
So,
time
so
yet.
what were you saying? You were talking about,
I was saying something really deep and profound for sure.
and you're going to, of course, repeat it for us.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume what I was saying is,
Well,
you
you were
know,
saying you were getting much pickier about who it was you were connecting with on LinkedIn. And
because if the first thing
yay,
you do is solicit me with something, I'm not interested, right?
yes. I
And
mean,
I find that sort of an abuse of the networking
it
process.
is it is a huge abuse because I mean they are assuming that you don't already have somebody that you would prefer to work with for whatever that service is.
I mean, you think about this, right? So we've all been to live networking events. You know, I've never met you. The likelihood of me walking up to you like, buy my product. Like, who are you? And go away. Right. So, like if it doesn't work in the real world, why do people think it's going to work online? Um,
Yeah, it's even worse because there's even less of a relationship there.
yeah, and some people, if you're going to do cold calling, clearly it's a numbers game, and you know, we've all been through some form of sales in our life, and we've all been through you need 100 no's to get to a yes, and I'm at my 99th no, so it's going to happen anyway.
Oh,
What I mean?
yes.
So those kinds of, but that's not how we develop businesses, right?
Not
The way
sustainable ones.
Well, I mean, the reality is, my product is not for everybody. So I could easily get 100 no's by asking the wrong people if they want to buy my product, right? Versus taking the time to understand what their needs are and whether or not I have a solution that could solve their needs. So our approach, because people always say, like, well, what do you offer? And I'm like, well, what do you need? What's going on? Tell me what's going on, and I can tell you whether or not we can help you. But what's the point of me selling you something when I don't even know that you need it?
Right. Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's why I like to ask the questions, what have you tried in the past to solve this problem? What it really opens up a different kind of conversation. And so I do have another big pet peeve. And I have a competitor and she has a done for you service. And she is an extreme extrovert. If she
you
works
don't
with
like her because she's outgoing?
um I've gotten several clients from her because one of the things that if she works with an introvert, it's really hard for her to write things in a style that would seem congruent and authentic to an introvert.
Hmm.
Extroverts will say things in a certain way. I mean, it's the same thing, but they're going to say it in a little bit different way than an introvert will. And then when you meet that introvert and they say it in their own way, there's a disconnect. There's that cognitive dissonance thing. And so done for you service it really has to fit the person that you're doing it for. You can't just check off all the boxes. It has to have a certain tone and a certain understanding of who that person is. I'm just very leery of when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to do this all for you and it's going to be great."
Right, and that sort of piggybacks on what I was saying earlier about like the idea that you, the entrepreneur, can just then step away and not pay attention.
Yeah.
You have to be engaged. You have to understand. I can't tell you how many of our clients in this, so this should go over big with our clients, but how many of our clients are like, just figure it out. And I'm like, figure what out? Figure out what your business is. You should be able to convey that. You should be able to articulate that, you know. And we do have clients that we've had for years and years, and we have figured it out, and we do know. But when they first come in the door, we're on a learning curve as well. So we need to understand what your business does. You know, there's a very good likelihood that whatever you're doing, is in a competitive landscape. So we need to understand, how do you differentiate from your competitors? Hopefully it's not simply by price, that you offer something else of value to your clients that makes you a preference to the other competitors. But we're always asking these types of questions, like, what problem are you solving? Why is this different than the way all the competitors in the marketplace solve it? Why do people come to you? Because very often we'll ask that question, why do people come to you? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, they picked you for a reason. So we will spend a fair amount of time figuring out buyer personas. And we'll go back and talk to existing clients and say, okay, why did you go there? What were you feeling? What feelings does this company bring to you? Because we're looking for, marketing words, and we're looking for emotions when somebody's working with this client. So we'll go through the whole development of a buyer persona or multiple buyer personas to understand what people are feeling during the process, what people feel afterwards. Hopefully they feel a little warm and fuzzy, and that's what we want to convey. But really diving into buyer personas to understand who is your target audience. And anybody who is telling you that you can sell to everybody, that's a huge mistake, right? You have to find your niche.
Yes, for sure. So any other pet peeves for you?
I have,
I know you do.
how many days do you have? I have lots of pet peeves.
Okay, let's narrow it down to marketers.
No, the biggest pet peeve, part of my pet peeve, and this was never my intent when we started this conversation, but I guess I'm going there anyway, is one of my pet peeves, and this is not marketers, but it's the clients themselves, where, we will take the time, and we try to take the time to educate our clients as to the process, why we go through this process and what we expect of the outcome. And so many clients will come to us, and they don't tend to be clients that we want to work with, but who come to us and just like, well, just take care of it, and they no longer want to participate in the marketing of their own business.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's really tough. And on the flip side of that, Michael, one of my pet peeves is if I've gone to a professional, I'm looking for advice, I'm trying to find out if we're a good fit, and they'll tell me, "Oh, this is what you need." And then I ask them, well, how does that work? And what's the process? And what can I expect from that? And they can't answer me anything. All they can say is, this is the one that you need, this package, this service, whatever it is. And there's really no discussion left open for that. So, on both sides, when people's expectations are that you're going to take whatever service that you're told to take, or that you're going to buy something and then there's magic that happens in there someplace.
And I think that's the difference between sales and marketing, right? Sales has a product, an existing product, and they go out to the market and they're like, do you want it? Do you want it? Do you want it? And it's a numbers game. And they ask, the more people they ask, they get to their 100 no's or whatever they need to get to, because it's a numbers game.
Yes.
Where, I have developed this lovely widget. I have no idea who needs it, but I'll just ask everybody. And, by a numbers game, a certain percentage of people were like, oh yeah, I need that. Right? Which is a very different approach than developing a solution based on your client's needs.
Yes. That is the magic thing right there.
Right. Because people come to us and like, well, what are you selling? I'm like, I don't sell anything. We develop solutions based on what we, see, and based on the feedback that we get from our clients of what they're seeing in the marketplace. What are the unmet needs? Where can they differentiate? So, we don't sell anything in theory. We sell, of course, but we don't sell. What we do is we develop solutions to meet unmet needs in the marketplace, which is very different than, I have developed a lint roller. Do you want one? And if you ask enough people, there will be people who want a lint roller, right? Clearly will want a lint roller. So that's sales. Take an existing product that you already have, that you have no intention to modify, and like, this is it, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? And maybe if there's 20 of these in the market, maybe mine is a little bit, it's got a lovely blue handle, or maybe it's 20 cents cheaper than the others, but that's sales, which is different than what we're talking. We're talking about marketing. We're talking about understanding who your clients are, understanding what their needs are, understanding what their expectations are, or helping them understand what their expectations are, which is a big piece, right? We talked about that with our clients. Like, you may want to rank number one. I would like to rank number one too, but the reality is this is how it works, and this is what you can expect. If that works for you, we can move forward. If that doesn't work for you, good luck, because we're not going to engage if you have unrealistic expectations.
Right. So there's a number of things that have really come up here. And one of and expectation seems to be one of the biggest themes that we're talking about. And when we were talking about the onboarding, we were that was managing expectations from the get-go.
Right.
So it's so interesting how it all weaves in together. And I really think that language is a really important piece of this also. The communication, the exact way that you are both listening and delivering information when you're in this marketing process, and whether people are really understanding what it is that you do, solutions instead of a sale, very
And it
different.
also goes back to like the buyer persona, because not only is language important, but it's important to understand the buyer's language, right? Because you may have a very technical term for whatever you develop, but if the client doesn't know that, right, what they, we optimize websites with search engine optimization and ADA compliance and all other kinds of things. What our client says is build me a website. Right? All of that is encompassed in building them a website, but they're not searching ADA, they're not searching SEO, they're searching build me a website. So in addition to having the right language is understanding what is the language that your client is using so that they understand the messaging. So, if you are promoting a product to a big audience, make sure they understand the language. And again, a lot of it will come back to they don't care about the exact nature of the product. What they care about is the outcome. This is going to save me time. This is going to make me happier. This is going to make me prettier. It's amazing because I spend way too much time on Instagram, right? And based on some recent scrolls in Instagram, I can lose lots of weight. I can have beautiful skin, and I can eliminate all my gray hair. And so, those are very lovely things. I don't think any of those are true, but those are like the outcomes that people are promising because people want to look better, want to feel better, want to be
People are
more
calm.
attractive.
I see that one all the time. I must be terribly stressed when I'm on Instagram.
When I'm on Instagram, apparently I have gray hair, which duh. So, it's funny though. Like there's so many that, and I have sick plants. So the only two ads I get is for the get rid of your gray hair, get rid of your blackheads, and then we can fix your plants. So that's
Uh,
what I see on Instagram these days.
and I'm absolutely sure that I need a whole new wardrobe.
Yeah, I probably do. But it's kind of funny. But when you look at those Instagram ads, it is clear they are targeting emotions and the outcomes are promising you a better life, right? You'll have better skin, you'll look younger, you'll feel better, you'll have those washboard abs you've always wanted.
Oh my. If you
Right?
didn't have
So
them when you were 18, how are you going to have them when you're 50?
you won't, but you'll pay for their products. So that's all that really matters. So those, and I would believe that those are actually very successful campaigns because people want those things, right? We can go back to whether or not once they receive the product, if they're it's what's always interesting for me, and because I'm a marketing person, is I go watch these Instagram things, and then I immediately go over to the customer reviews, right? And then like sort of like the disconnect between what they were promising and what they got. And in many cases, the disconnect was on the expectations, right? What do you mean I don't have six-pack abs from just doing this one thing, and still eating everything I've ever eaten and never exercising? So, the client's expectations were probably a little off and they ignored that. But it is interesting to look at what they promise and
Right.
then what the customer's review says. And mostly it's a disconnect between expectations, like we talked about. They just assumed this was going to be a magic fix.
Yikes. Yeah.
Because I can't scroll through Instagram without like, oh my God, I need that. There's so many things that Instagram is willing to fix for me. You know what I mean?
Yes. So if you need solutions, go to Instagram. So I have two questions for you. I hope I can remember them both.
Okay.
So seriously, Mike, Do you think that some of this is a lack of market research on the part of the person who is looking for services and solutions?
What I don't think it's market research is, we are small business owners, and as small business owners, we have to wear many hats, and we're wearing hats that we probably have no expertise in. The thing that I always talk about is there's this person who is a great pie baker, right? And they work in a place and they build pies, and like they have the best pies. So then they leap from, being a really good pie baker to like opening up their own place, and it's not successful because they have no expertise in business. They have no expertise in business planning. They have no expertise in marketing. They were a good pie maker, right? And they're still a good pie maker, but understanding that launching your own business, there are some additional skill sets that you need to have, in your group. Because if it's not you, that means you have to either hire someone or, have some sort of outside outsourcing. But, a lot of times that great pie maker is not any less of a great pie maker, but they didn't have the marketing skills, or they did, and the part of not having the marketing skills is just not knowing what questions to ask. So it's our job to walk them through the process. You've talked to me and we've had these conversations, and the first thing I'll ask you is like, okay, what's your value proposition? And the immediate response is what? I don't even know what that is.
Please don't ask me that. Please don't ask me that.
And then I will walk through the value proposition. Like, okay, what needs do your clients have? Right? What are the unmet needs? What are they looking for? They're looking to be happier. They're looking to be thinner. They're looking to be prettier, whatever it might be. Right.
And good marketers are really asking questions that get deeper than the superficial thing that people are looking for.
Well, typically marketers are selling the outcome, not the product, right? I'm going to be happier. I'm going to be thinner. I'm going to be, my world is going to be so much better because I bought this product on Instagram. So a good marketer, and they're not bad marketers who are doing this, because I guarantee they're selling product and that's their job. Whether or not they have happy customers and repeat orders is a different question. But, they're doing their job. They're tapping into the emotions that people, the unmet need that they have. They want to feel prettier. They want to feel thinner. They want to feel younger. They're tapping into those needs and they're successful. That is good marketing. The problem is that, the expectations from the clients are different, and they're probably not having a good customer experience or a good customer journey, because it probably doesn't satisfy those. Those are much bigger issues than anything that you're going to buy on Instagram is going to, solve for you. But they're, the marketers are doing a good job. They're tapping into the
That's what they're hired to do.
Right. But, for our clients, especially if they're startups or younger clients, is we're going to help that pie maker understand the process, right? We will start with, okay, what do you know about business? Okay. And we'll start at the very basic. Okay. Let's do a break-even analysis. How many pies do you need to sell to cover overhead? And when we crunch all those numbers, we come up with a number, and we're like, is that realistic? Can you sell 500 pies a day? And they're like, no, I really can't. Okay. All right. We need to figure out what that means. Do we go smaller? Do we do it part-time? What does all that mean? All right. And then, we'll start down a discussion with marketing. Okay. What are the unmet needs of your clients? They're hungry. Like, okay, well, there's probably more to
They don't have time to bake.
They have other options. Right. So, we're doing the 5 whys of, or the fishbone analysis of like, okay, what are the unmet needs? They're hungry. Well, they have other options. Why would they select yours? Because they like the look of the product. They like, they're looking for a dessert. They're looking for something sweet. So you get the needs to become more and more specific. But we'll walk them through that process so that they're like, oh, okay, it's not just about, putting it out there and they will come. It's about understanding what it is that they're looking for when they seek out your product or seek out your solution, whatever it may be.
Right. So are you ready for the second question?
Sure.
This one's much deeper. So,
I
you
love
know,
deep because I always have an opinion, so it doesn't matter.
marketing, in my humble opinion, is going through a huge shift right now. We've seen an awful lot of marketing that markets through association with a certain lifestyle or with a certain quality. And so our expectations are some sort of lifestyle change. You drink Pepsi and you're going to be rich and famous, or whatever those
But that's
expectations.
not new. Marketers have always promised that.
Yes, but do you think that marketing is going through any kind of a change right now to get away from some of those um, overinflated lifestyle associations and going more towards core problem that they're solving with their product or services?
Well, I mean, first of all, they've always done it that way. So that aspect of it isn't new. I think what's interesting about marketing is retargeting, right? Presenting an ad when you're like, how many times, it's like almost scary. How many times like, I swear I've talked about stuff and I see an ad when I hop online.
Oh my
Who's
God.
like my phone's listening to me, right? And I wouldn't be
Oh,
surprised. But a
yes.
lot of what we're doing is in the marketing is retargeting. So, what'll happen is so one of our clients is a tequila client. So I am online looking at tequila stuff all day long. So what do you think the ads are that are being pushed to me? They think I'm trying
Tequila
to buy tequila. And actually what I'm doing is market research. But
research, right?
they think so. I get tequila ads all the time because based on my activity online,
Yes.
one would suggest that I am a over imbiber of agave products. And while I do drink my share, it's quite not up to the level that one of the, one thinks based on my, search history. So, retargeting, right? So going at touching the client when they are looking for something immediately. And a lot of times what will happen is we will visit a website and the next couple of days we'll get pop-ups from that website. Like, I know you looked at it. What do you want to buy it now? And that's retargeting. So that's a great opportunity to reach clients because they've generated or demonstrated an interest in this particular category. I think the other thing that is, I mean, when it comes to a shift in marketing, is really this omnipresence of marketing. And
Yes.
and every space age movie that you've ever seen where like, the ads are as you're walking by. And that's turning into reality, where they're going to be low, because our phones will say, hey, are you hungry? Because 2 blocks from where you are is this, right? So the marketers know where we are. They know what time of day it is. They know, they know where we've been. So, we really have the ability to target this messaging at the time when the potential customer is probably about to make a decision. And it really, so I think it's just ever present. I think it was there before, but it feels like it's even more because now, it used to be that if you wanted to market to me, you bought an ad in a newspaper, which I may or may not look at once a day. Okay. Now I have a cell phone glued to my hip at all times that makes me readily available for any marketing messages you want to send me. So I get texts, I get phone calls, I get, pop-ups, all those types of things. So they're really the omnipresence of marketing
And
and
omni-channel.
omni-channel, whether it's my phone, whether it's online, whether it's a billboard, those types of things. It's, there's just omnipresence, omni-channel. So it feels like there's a lot more marketing bombarding us every day. Um,
Yes.
you know what I mean? So I think that's what shifted is there's just so many more ways to reach us and our consumption has changed. I don't know about you, but when's the last time you read a newspaper?
I was a diehard. I was a holdout on a
Mhm.
physical newspaper, but it's been 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I would say mine is a lot longer, but but what I realized was I want to say 15 or more years ago was that what I was reading in the paper, I had read online the day before. That the news cycle, to get it to paper publication was about 24 hours behind. So I'm like, I read this yesterday online, and at some point I'm like, why don't I just read it online? Because I don't need to wait for it. I do read a lot of news online and that type of thing. So it used to be you would get a letter and then you got a phone call, then you got an email. Now we get text.
And I prefer the text.
Yeah.
I
It's,
do.
and tomorrow there'll be something different, right? But there's, it's the delivery changes, the medium changes, those are those types of things. And a good marketer is aware of those changes and aware of, where people are and what's the best place to reach them. And I hopefully think this goes without saying. And then what we do is we seek their permission or we get them to opt in, so we're not spamming them.
Right.
So do you want to get text messages? Some people are like, yes, it's my preferred platform. I would prefer that. I will routinely be a lot happier and a lot more responsive to a text message than, if somebody leaves me a voicemail or, wants to chat me up somewhere. I'm like, just send me a text, because I can access it when I have time.
Right. And you get the full
to
amount
it,
of information.
and I have control of it. Right.
Yeah.
So, if I have a conversation, and not unlike the one we're having, we will go down different paths. Whereas if I have a limited amount of time, I really only want to respond to what they need versus exploring other options.
Right. So we've talked around this whole topic in a lot of different ways, and I really want to kind of bring it back to a focus for small business. So let's talk about some of the main points. Because a small business is not likely to use 5, 6, 7 different channels to do things. So they really need to kind of focus on where their people are and what their pain points are and what results they're looking for. So do you have any words of wisdom for a small business and how to bring this back and educate marketers a little bit and educate the small business people on what they should be looking for or what they should be running from?
I mean, once you have your value proposition, and I'm going to advocate you need that, but I would say then the buyer persona is understanding your clients, understanding where they want to be reached at, understanding what it is that they're looking for, what it is that there are unmet needs. So, I would say once you have your value proposition, to really think about building buyer personas. That, what is who is your client? Where are they? Where do they hang out? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Do they want to get a text? Do they want to get an email? Those types of things. So I would say the answer to the question is buyer personas. Build these buyer personas so that you can understand. And like everything else we build, these are not a set it and forget it. These are always living documents that as you get more information, you might update the profile, but definitely create profiles of your targeted clients or your target audience.
That's an excellent answer. And small businesses really need to educate. It's just like going to the doctor. You really have to advocate for yourself a little bit when you go to the doctor. So when you go to the marketer, you should be prepared to answer a certain couple of questions. And it's our job to set up expectations correctly and have timelines that might be realistic about things.
What I would say is if you go to a marketer and they aren't asking these questions, find another marketer. You know what I mean? We don't expect you to go in with the questions. We expect you to expect that there should be questions. So, what we need is for you to understand that this is a process. And when you're engaging a new marketing person, they should be asking you, what are their customer needs? Who are your clients? What's your target audience? They should be asking you a bunch of questions to further identify and clarify who's the right audience for what you're trying to do. If they just want to give you a solution without asking you any of those questions, they're in sales and run.
And I'm sorry to say this, but there are a lot of website builders that will build exactly the type of website that you ask them to build without asking any of those questions.
And having built a lot of websites, a lot of times we do ask those questions and the clients are like, no, 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 just figure it out. Right. So, that's not necessarily our fault because we did try that approach and the client's like, nope, I want this and, make it look like that. And we're like, oh, what feedback does your target audience give you that makes you think this is the right approach? But, sometimes the clients, like, they know what they want or they think they know what they want. And, we try to maybe open up the dialogue and they're like, nope, this is what just build us what we want. And we're like, okay, we'll build you what you want. We as a rule don't tend to, those types of clients aren't our clients, so we tend to sort of suggest they find another home. But that's not necessarily the marketing person or the web builder's fault, because a lot of times the client will just go in. You want one of my pet peeves, since we're, I finally remembered one after all this time.
Please.
My biggest pet peeve is the client that comes to us with the, I don't know what I want, but I'll see it when I see, well, I'll know it when I see it.
There's a crapshoot.
And I'm like, yeah, goodbye, go away. Because what that means to me is that I'm going to do lots and lots of rework, trying to figure out what it is that you may or may not like. Do you like this? Nope. All right, we'll try something else. What about this? Nope. We don't go down that path and we don't play that game. So, when the client comes to us, we'll ask them those questions. And if we're still getting feedback, like, I don't know, I'll know it when I see it. Like, yeah, we don't have time for that. So, engage us. If you know what you want, cool. If you don't know what we want, we'll help you through that process. But, we won't do unlimited revisions until you figure out what you actually do want.
Right. That gets you into that 80-20 thing. You're spending 80% of your time on something that's not giving you your best return.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily ever going to be happy because you're not delivering what they want.
They
don't know what they want, but they do know what they don't want. And that's what you seem to only be able to develop. So
do any feedback
either know what you want or be open to the dialogue to figure out what you want, versus, let's just create unlimited versions until we get lucky. And that's not our idea of a good time.
And sometimes your market can't wait that long for you to figure out who you are and what it is that you do. And I'm gonna tell everybody right now, this whole process of trying to figure out who you are, what you have to offer, who you serve, how you're going to deliver it, it can be painful sometimes.
Well, but I would concur it could be painful, but it's less painful if you do it up front.
Yes.
Right. If you
the benefit is
like, don't even
huge.
build a product, don't build a solution until you've reached out and what are the pain points? What are, is this the pain point they're willing to pay to solve? Those types of questions. I mean, if you look at any kind of like tech guides, it's like, don't even build a product, build a minimal viable product and go out and see what the response is. It's, a very agile approach to product development, which is, here's something, unique. Go talk to your client or go talk to your prospect to actually ask them what they want, versus coming up with something on your own. Like, here's what I think the world needs. The world probably doesn't need that. But your client does have needs, and if you can solve those needs and they're real, you can deliver value, then they'll buy from you all day long.
Yeah, exactly. So any parting words that we want to share, anything that can tie this all up in a nice, neat little bow?
Yeah, I mean, two things. Right? Number one, if you engage with a professional, that does not give you the excuse to then stop thinking. Right?
That's good.
You need to be, there's an ROI involved, so you need to make sure you're getting a return. The way to get a return is to figure out what's working you may try things, they may not work, but as long as you're learning from that, that's fine. But there needs to be some sort of KPI, there needs to be some sort of ROI measurement to understand with what you're doing with this professional, is it working? Is it worth the money that you're spending on this professional? So that would be, you need to be engaged and you need to measure the process.
It is a little bit of a dance. You need to find out, you need to educate yourself, and the other person needs to educate themselves on you and your business and your personality.
A lot of our clients are experts in their technologies, but that's different than being experts in the market. So,
Yes.
what we try to do is work with them to get a better understanding of the marketplace that they reside in, so that we can offer, a proper solution that meets the needs of their potential clients, and understanding who those
Of
potential
advantage.
clients between, buyer personas. And I guess that would be my other last point, would be the buyer personas, that they're amazing tools if they're done right. They are an investment, they're time consuming. We're talking like this is like old school, where like you go out and you talk to people and you get feedback, and you ask them, how does it make you feel? Why did you buy that? Why did you spend money? Would you have bought it at, if the product sells at $59.99, would you buy it at $79.99? No, that's too expensive, right? Sort of get their sentiment, right? Collecting this buyer sentiment and collecting all this information. So the second piece is, before you do anything, before you build a product, before you go out into sales and start trying to sell me another lint roller, create these buyer personas, spend the time to understand what the unmet needs are, and that people are willing to pay to solve, right? There has to be payment, because a lot of people will do things for free. I do things for free all the time. But when you ask me, you and we're forever trying new tech products. What do you think? What do you like? It? I'm like, and I try a lot, but the conversion, I would say, is less than 20%. We're like, okay, now I'm ready to crack open the wallet and actually buy this product on an ongoing basis. But there's stuff I'm willing to try, sure. And then there's some things that, like, once I try it, and I'm going to say Chat GPT is one of my, oh my God moments, where it's like, as soon as I couldn't use it, like, oh no, I need to buy this. I need to have, the premium version, because I need access to it all the time. Because it delivers value to my business. So,
It's a tool.
So understanding really these buyer personas, I think that they're hugely helpful in understanding your marketing, understanding who your target audience is. We've had the discussion again before about sort of the kitchen remodeler, and looking at 3 prospective types of clients, where the family of 4 has different needs than the single individual in their 70s living alone, right? So depending on who you're targeting, and if you're trying to target both, you can't target those 2 groups with the same messaging. You have to develop more messaging that resonates with them, and then you need to understand the language that they use, those types of things.
Yes, and buyer personas are not set in stone. They will change over time.
They're living documents, absolutely.
Yes.
We go back and we we will come up with a theory, and like a lot of times, like 6 months later, we're like, well, that changed. Guess what? They're not on Clubhouse anymore.
Or they're back on Twitter.
Or somewhere. Who knows where they are? God, I'm sure Elon will run them off soon enough, but yes, they may be on Twitter for now.
Well, this was a fantastic discussion, Mike. Thank you so much for your insights. And what are we going to talk about next week? SEO?
Sure. We can always talk about SEO. SEO is fun.
Yeah. Okay. Next week's discussion might be a little bit passionate because both of us have some very distinctive ideas about SEO and optimization on different platforms. So tune in next week for SEO.
Great. Thank you.